Welcome to Infinity Rewatch, the podcast where we talk about Marvel movies and we say rewatch even though we've only seen this one once because we didn't want to change the whole name of our show just to accommodate things. Wait, are you crazy? I'm Andrew
Yeah.
Fantasia,
What's up, everybody? Ryan J. Whitehead.
and we are talking today about a very special movie, a movie where a bunch of humans who are just trying to do the right thing and get a couple of, resources to help them out are beset upon by a bunch of strange blue fish people who attack them. We're talking Avatar, The Way of Water. We got to see an advanced screening, and it was exactly as good as we all thought it was.
Oh man, it's. I actually was wondering where you were going with it, and then you took me there. You took me to, how long is too long for a sequel to come out? That's my little thing on it. Especially when it's like a direct sequel. Like I don't know. You look at Bill and Ted's, and the last one they got, and it took many years to complete it and make it a trilogy. I get that. That's fine. It's kind of this age old thing, but Avatar is pretty new, and it took this long for a sequel. This better be a game changing sequel.
Yeah, this weight is gonna be like I've been feeling this weight. I'm an Avatar fan. I've been feeling the weight, so I want. There's probably going to be a level of disappointment. I think everybody's gonna walk out of that movie feeling like I liked 12 things, but there was 8 things where I'm like, why did I wait for that for 13 years?
Exactly.
I feel like that's bound to happen. I think the longest time between a movie and its sequel is Bambi and Bambi 2. I think it's something like 81 years. Just something bananas like that. Because, the world was clamoring in 2009 for a Bambi sequel. So Disney finally delivered. But I think that's how long James Cameron said we have to wait for Avatar 3. So
I don't know if I can wait that long. I'll see it, but I don't know if I wait that long. But what we really watched was Wakanda Forever. And, let's kick off with the beginning. Now, some background, actually. Let's kick off with some background about this movie. First of all, this script was given to Chadwick. It was ready to go right after, I think it was shortly after Endgame. So this script was done. And then, unfortunately, Chadwick passed away. Due to his battle with cancer, prostate cancer, I believe it was. And so, fast forward to this movie. Now, this movie, I watched a reviewer and he brought up an interesting point. This movie didn't need to be made. They could have been like, you know what? Got Black Panther out there. We did it. And that's it. But you could tell, and I totally agree with this reviewer, you can tell that this movie, everyone was like fully on board and super passionate about making it. Like it needed to be made. And they made it feel like it needed to be made. And there are some performances in this movie that just take it to a whole new level of like committing to this world. And that's where I think it really kicks off, because from the beginning of this movie all the way through, they invite the viewers in to be a part of this world, and they really let you take time with these characters. Like they kind of make you feel like you're walking around with these characters as they're going through their events. It's really an emotional experience.
Yeah, and you're right. It is a passion project. It's arguably the first passion project we've gotten since like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they just sort of said, we need to make this because we need to make this, not because Feige's spreadsheet said we needed to make this.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Is like this movie does not feel like a studio forced film. And at first I'd be like, no, none of those movies do. But there are some movies that's kind of like, okay, this was kind of, pushed out there. But this movie, no, everyone was there for it, and this is a big, oh man, this is a big adventure, and it's good too, because when you do that and make a character driven experience, that you don't have to have action all the time, and this movie proved that. Like I was entertained through and through. And I love action movies as much as the next ADD character. But let me tell you, this movie, when action happens, it is pure glorious. Like it is like WrestleMania, epic superhero battles. But this movie takes its time, and it's really good. It is a really good film.
Taking its time is one of the things I love about this movie, because this is a long movie, Ryan.
It's a long burn.
It's a long burn, but I love that. And I wanted to reference our phase 4 runtime guesses and see how close we came. So let's see.
I think I went way overboard on this one. I'm pretty sure I did.
We were both. What do you think you guessed?
I'm going to say 3 hours.
You did not guess 3 hours. You guessed 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Oh.
And I also undershot it by quite a bit. I guessed 2 hours, 22 minutes.
Well, by Price is Right rules, you would be the winner.
Yeah. We both underestimated the power of what Ryan Coogler wanted to do. So I'm glad it turned out to be much longer than that. But so far, you are still the king of guessing runtime, sir. You are the closest on 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6.
Boom. Yeah, but you're catching up now. I'm on a downward trend right now, so that's not a good sign.
We'll see what happens with Quantum Mania. We both guessed the same thing for Quantum Mania, so we're
so it's either I redeem myself and tie it, or
something catastrophic happens. We both guessed 2:10.
Or we're both wrong. That'll be interesting. I don't think they've revealed the runtime for it, have they?
Not yet. No, it might be too soon. But I think our guess of 2:10 is pretty. I think that's not outside the realm of possibility. Those movies, the first two were shorter, but this one's kind of got a lot going on under the hood. So.
And so going back to the background of this film, the other interesting thing that we even talked about on our previous episode was the name of this movie, which was Wakanda Forever. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we were kind of on the side of like, I don't think it needs that kind of name. Like this is like when you're ending a trilogy or ending a saga, then you do like a Wakanda Forever kind of name.
Yeah.
And when you see this film, it's kind of fitting. It definitely, the theme fits the title. The interesting thing was it was actually going to be, based on what I read, it was actually going to be more about like, it was going to be like Rise or something, but it was the title had more to do with the antagonist of this film, who I love so much. But it was going to be more about him. But then they realized, like, no, this is a story about Wakanda. It's not about Namor, or sorry, Namor. It's not about Namor. It's about Wakanda. So like, you can't name the title all about the antagonist in the sense that they knew they wanted to keep it on the Wakanda side.
Yeah, I'm still in the camp that this is just me because I'm super old-fashioned. I still pine for the days when this movie was called Black Panther 2 with a big old Roman numeral, because that's what I like to see. I think, though, now that I've seen the film, I feel like an even more appropriate title than the one they chose would just be Black Panther Forever, because that ends up being the point. Is you can kill the man, but there's just this tradition of having this hero as part of the culture of Wakanda. And they lose sight of that for a bit, but once they bring it back, they realize how important it was to them to have a Black Panther. And it sounds like from now on, they're going to make sure that they always do, thanks to what Shuri does. So that sounds like it would have been a little bit of a better title for me, but I still just prefer a good old-fashioned Black Panther 2, The Way of Water.
Well, I mean, I like that, actually. I would even like the war on Wakanda. Like, that would have been a really cool name as well, because essentially that's what the movie is. It's a war on Wakanda. And so the movie kicks off with, I think, one of the most interesting things. And we talked about it after the movie was done. But the movie, and so this is where we get into spoiler territory. You've been warned. We're going into the spoiler
You're
trenches.
going to spoil Avatar 1, folks.
Yeah, we're going in deep into it. It's funny how we talk about Avatar because it's kind of related in a way. Think about it. But anyway, so okay, spoiler, warning, 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 warning. You've been warned. Okay, so the movie kicks off with Shuri trying to save T'Challa.
No
And
spoilers. I haven't seen it yet, dude.
you've been warned. You're too listening. And also I have to say that the opening weekend dust has been settled. You know, it's past opening weekend, even past cheap movie night to go see it. So if you're a fan and you haven't seen it at this point, if you're watching us and you haven't seen it yet, that means you don't care about spoilers and you just want to hear what we have to say, which we love, and we thank you for that.
We do. By the way, highest grossing November movie of all time. So
yes, 180 million opening weekend. That's
damn.
Damn. Yeah, that's really good. But okay, so yeah, the movie kicks off with her trying to save him, and I thought that was really interesting to still include him in the story. And of course, they're going to do that, honor him in many ways, and in which they do. They honor Chadwick in many ways. But what I do like is that they did find a way. I both liked it, and at the same time, I was wondering if they even needed it because, and I still debate that to myself. Do I argue what they did was wrong? No, I mean, I loved it. I still loved it regardless. But her trying to save him, I thought that was just an interesting move overall. And I was wondering, like, did they even need to do it? Like, could they not just like cut the scene to the point where she just like walks out of the operating room like you couldn't save him, like kind of attitude, and have her like emotionally drag out that way?
Right. I don't know. I like what they did. I like this opening shot because it was a long shot. But just the idea of Shuri seeing herself as a failure. We see she's a hard worker. We see everything that she's trying to do to save him in this point, and then it doesn't work. That carries her through the whole movie. That carries how she feels. She is not confident at all in this movie until she gets to the point where she's got a spear to Namor's throat and she realizes this isn't who I am.
Yeah.
That's when she finally steps into herself and is like, whoa, okay, I see what I have done. I see what I'm capable of, and I know where to draw a line now, because up until that point, she's angry. She's resentful towards the world for what has happened to her brother. That she entertains and flirts with the notion of like, maybe we should just burn it all, right? So Shuri goes to a dark place, and I like that the movie takes us there, whether it is very Empire Strikes Back in that way, it is very Act 2. And I think that seeing her do her best in this operating room gives us sort of insight of what kind of journey the movie's going to take us on. So I'm glad they included it. And I'm glad that we got to see, not necessarily specific because they just said disease, but we got to see a respectful, fitting explanation as to why T'Challa's not around anymore. It's not just like, oh, while you were blinking, he died. Like they gave it some meat. They put some meat around this story. In my own head canon, I like to think that it comes from, he got thrown off a waterfall by Killmonger and was pretty much dead. So even though the heart-shaped herb brought him back, I like to think in my head canon that like maybe, that just his body kind of shut down that day. So stuff happened and it snowballed and it led to this disease. You know what I mean? Like, It's just kind of like, it's not just something that came out of nowhere. Like it can kind of fit with what happened to him in the first movie. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, because like you're right. Don't get me wrong, and I totally agree with it. And it's funny because like I agree that the scene is still relevant. Like it does. It has complete relevance. And I'm just like wondering, like, but at the same time, I wonder the opposite side. And I think you're right in terms of your headcanon. I like how you explain that because maybe they didn't have enough because they only had the one herb to save them in the first time. So I don't. Maybe is there more herbs they need? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But there's ways to look at it. But I agree with you. It does set the narrative of Shuri's story throughout the whole movie. And Shuri does Latita does an amazing job. Like, you really feel the burden in which she bears of like failure and losing her true North Star essentially. And where do you go from there? Like, what do you do? You know, and then we get a beautiful funeral. It just, oh my god, the culture they explore in this film is, I mean, if you're gonna do in a sci-fi movie, if you're exploring culture, you need to explore culture. Like, you need to explore every view of it, and like how people interact with each other. And I mean, I love the Wakanda salute and everything, and yeah, and just the funeral scene is just beautiful. And they don't cut to anything. Like, you walk through the whole thing, and it's just an amazing journey. And it's beautiful. I mean, seeing them dancing and celebrating this person, it's just an absolute sight to behold.
Yeah, we needed that scene. I'm sure the actors needed that scene, and they appreciated having it. I don't want to give Disney any ideas, because we know Disney, Ryan. They will sell anything. But I gotta admit, if I had the means to purchase a Wakandan coffin for myself, I don't think I'd say no. Those are beautiful. That was a beautiful coffin.
It is gorgeous. And it's oh my god, yeah, it's a gorgeous coffin for sure. And I mean, it's again, I just love the honor they did to Chadwick, and also the character, because like the two brought this character to life, you know, the character from the comics and what Chadwick brought from the character from the comics. And it's like it's such an emotional scene. Like, it's just, you know, the actor and the character will be sorely missed, because, you know, it was a match made. It was a match made since, like, you know, like all these castings of Marvel that you just now can't see the character any other way. Like, right. I encourage them to, you know, I encourage the mantle to be passed on, absolutely. But will I still cherish the memory that Chadwick brought to this character? Absolutely. Like, again, he, you know, ever since he donned the character, I can't see anyone else. Like, I just can't.
No, it's too hard now. It's like picturing somebody else playing Tony Stark. You just can't do that. And I mean, I'm sure the question has been asked before, but I would love to speculate and maybe one day hear from Ryan Coogler himself, what would be different about this script had we not lost Chadwick. You know, what if Chadwick had just been like, okay, cool, let's do Black Panther 2, and I'm fine. And they made this movie, because from what you said, it was still about Namor, it was still about Talocan coming up and everything. So what would they have done differently that would have, you know, where would the plot have gone? Because I think one of my favorite parts, or my favorite aspects of Wakanda Forever, was something I wasn't really expecting, which is this cool kind of ensemble adventure between Shuri, Okoye, and Makia. And just like the three of them hopping around the world, just doing stuff. And that, to me, was so entertaining. I mean, you take those three, you throw M'Baku in the mix, you got a sitcom right there. Like, I'll watch those four do anything together. So obviously it wouldn't, those four would not have been as prominent had we still had T'Challa. Maybe Nakia, because of the romance. They probably would have wanted to carry that over. But I'm really curious how different the movie would be, because I ended up really finding a lot of strength and a lot of things to enjoy in the fact that we had these characters now front and center. So that was a great trade-off. They really strengthened and built up the movie rather than letting it fall apart without Chadwick being there.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think there would have been a lot of changes to the story aside from, you know, I don't know how T'Challa's story would have grown. I would definitely love to hear Ryan Coogler's story about like how T'Challa's growth would have been in that movie. Because again, I mean, if you leave off from Black Panther, because you can't really count, Infinity War in that story, because even though we do spend time with them in Wakanda, he comes off of learning a lot from Killmonger. That's where he leaves, his story arc. So in this movie, would that be the continuation? Like, okay, he started his outreach program, and like he's following up with Shuri about like how things are going out there. Have you met any interesting people? Like, like Riri Williams. And then on top of that, you also have like, then the other thing I would like is like, yeah, maybe, maybe his mother like sits with him and saying like, hey, you have this kingdom, it's perfect, it's great, you're doing a great job leading. And then all of a sudden, something like she's kind of like preparing him for like, one day I'm going to be gone too, and you're not going to have me as the council and all this stuff. So I don't know. There could be that kind of journey, but I don't think there's too many changes in terms of like, I think Namor still comes in the same way, and still does the same things, which takes me to the perfect next step, which is the ship, the attack of the ship with the Atlanteans, or sorry, the Talukans. Yeah, I think those events would have still played out the same way.
I think so. I think we would have gotten those same events. But I love just how perfectly the dominoes were set up, in terms of, okay, T'Challa says at the end of his last movie, hey, world, we're going to share what we have because we have a lot. And then next thing you see, Infinity War happens. He gets caught up in that. He gets killed by Thanos. He comes back 5 years later and then gets sick and dies. So it makes sense that the United Nations would be like, hey, where's that help you promised? Because things happen. Thanos happened. Shit happens, UN.
Mm-hmm.
We got to deal with Purple Men here. So the fact that everybody was getting antsy for help from Wakanda, it created this cool pressure where Ramonda, rightfully so, is saying, like, I have not had a chance to grieve. I lost my son basically twice. Did they confirm did Ramonda get snapped or did she live through the snap? I can't remember. I feel like they gave us an answer.
I feel like they did. I don't remember, to be honest. I would be talking on my butt if I guessed. So, but yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah,
but she was like a parent losing a child, and then losing him again after this giant war with this alien man. So she's been a little busy, but the world is pressuring her because that's what the world likes to do, or rather that's what politicians like to do, is be like, give us power. You have power. We want some. So I love just seeing Ramonda school these politicians, absolutely take them to school. That French lady, the look on her face, like there should have been whoever, Ludwig Göransson should have just thrown something in the score where it just goes.
Absolutely. So first of all, before we get to that, I got to point out this attack on the ship in the Atlantic. So they send people, they send scuba divers down deep into the ocean, and with like this cool aquatic gear. And they find out that there's a drill, and what's interesting too is because they also talk. Wakanda takes the position that they're the only ones who have vibranium, so it's up to them to decide who they want to give it to, and because they're always worried about weaponization, or just like essentially weaponization being the worst.
Right.
But like it just what are they going to do with it, kind of thing, and they have and trust takes time, kind of thing. And so then and I love the tie-in between these two nations, between Talokan and Wakanda here, because we find out through the story that the drill's been broken, and the way it's been broken, there's only one substance in the world that can do that, is vibranium. which brings up the question: is vibranium elsewhere? Did that meteor break up into pieces and chunks of it are scattered throughout the world? And then when they introduce the Telukans, I love that they do the siren song, and then the characters all walk like zombies and jump off the ship. It is the
So
coolest
scary.
idea. It is scary, and it's beautiful. The song is beautiful too. Like, but it is that's what even makes it like scarier, I guess. Like, it's really cool how they did that. And there's a character, she claims that once you find out who she is, she's gonna change, like, or you're gonna kind of get a better understanding of, you know, who this character is. I still haven't figured it out. I don't know who this character is. I didn't even get a chance to catch her name. It turns out I'm pretty sure she dies pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, this soldier comes in onto the boat, and she's like this boss woman that just walks around giving people orders. And so she's in this room and seeing people just jump off the ship. And then we see the Talukans come up, and they look amazing. They look gorgeous. Oh my god. And then we get the introduction as they try to leave through the helicopter. We get the introduction of Namor, seeing him literally grab a helicopter and throw it into the ocean. Anytime Namor does anything, it looks gorgeous. Like, he just looks like a boss person. And so,
and he spins that helicopter around like he's Mario throwing Bowser.
Yeah, just yeah, but it's amazing. So yeah, but then the United Nations, they question it, and yeah, I love that the Wakandans take a position that they think they're the only ones who have it, and it kind of, what's interesting too is that decision or that thought process puts them in a backpedal, which is interesting because Wakanda is kind of a modest but like a modestly confident nation that they are powerful. They are powerful and not to be underestimated is that. But because they start to figure out that they may not be the only ones that have vibranium, it puts them on their back heel, and it starts to make them a little nervous. And I love that. It literally proved that they have a chink in their armor, and they are now like, what the hell? So moving forward, we they come back, and Ramonda is trying to console Shuri and get her to talk about her feelings and stuff like that. And it's again, Shuri does a great or Latita, she does a great job. Again, really playing up the burden of like what she went through. And so they go out and they have like a mother-daughter moment. Again, exploring how culture deals with, awake and grieving and how to move on and everything. Then Namor comes out of the water, which is, again, I think one thing among many things this movie does amazing is they took a character that in my opinion, is probably the hardest to translate to film. And they made him so badass. To make him a tribal leader, oh my God. With the Mesoamerican background, oh my God. They couldn't have done it. They couldn't have done a better job. I don't think they could have made that character any cooler than he is. Because, oh man, he is any scene he has, he is an intimidating man. Whew. Good time.
Even just the design they went for, because you look at Namor in the comics, he's kind of goofy looking. He's just a Mr. Spock looking dude wearing green trunks, and that's it. And he's got some feathers on his feet. Like, it's the most minimalist look of, I think, any hero in the Marvel universe. So just the simple idea of, and I don't know what came first. I don't know if it was a chicken or egg thing, but if they decided, okay, we'll make the Talokans a Mesoamerican culture, then it fit perfectly. Somebody at some point in the production design team said, let's cover him with royal jewelry that would be worn by monarchs of that culture. And that jewelry can be vibranium. And also, it just makes him look more interesting than just, I'm a guy with no shirt. Right? So it's this, I want to know what came first. I want to know if somebody said, let's cover him with jewelry first, or if somebody said, let's change the culture so it's Mesoamerican first. Like I can't wait to find out the process of that, because it all just fed into itself, and we ended up with this perfect looking Namor. And now every time I see the old Namor, who's just a guy with nothing on but trunks, I'm like, damn, that's lame.
I
I
know.
can't go back now.
Well, and the other thing too, Namor. There's always the comparison between Namor and Aquaman, and they both get a lot of humor pushed at them. And here's the thing: is that like I can't remember who came first in the comics. I want to say it's Namor.
Yeah, Namor's pretty old. I don't think Aquaman was around that long.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the in Marvel, he's like literally the first superhero, is what they say, like the first superhero kind of character. Um, and but Aquaman, they beat Marvel to the punch by getting Aquaman out in the open as quickly as possible. And what's interesting to me is I agree with you. First of all, it's a dude with like green trunks, and I'm not talking like the cool board shorts kind of trunks. No, he's like old school Speedo, green Speedo with like scales on it, fish scales on it, and he had the little wings on his ankles. Like he does not scream like a symbol of like manhood. You know what I mean? Like, but in this movie, oh my god, he just the presence this guy brings, and this is his first movie. Not only Namor's first movie, but the actor's first like blockbuster film. So this is huge. The pressure is insane. And I love he's got like the nose ring thing, and he's got the whole thing going. But he comes out and he's like, hey, like, people are coming in on my resources. And then, and he's like, I need your help kind of thing. Like, you need to help me get the scientist, and we need to stop this because you guys have, I've heard about this place. Like, you guys have this stuff too. And so it really sets a whole point. And I love how he tells him, he's like, don't tell anyone about my name. And he's like, or there will be consequences. And I love how they try, and man, Wakanda, man, their secret keeping is not great, because I'm pretty sure they held it for like 20 minutes. Like they held it, and like they're like, oh, we can't talk about him, but Namor's coming. And then it's just like, okay, well, you said it, it's out in the open now, like I'm sure there's technology there, they can hear it. And I love how Wakanda, the world, the MCU world perceives them as, a third world, and, they just don't have technology or anything developed. And then we, the audience, get invited into their world, and then so do certain characters, and then we see like the technology and how futuristic they are. Namor and the Talukans, they are a bit more third world than Wakanda, I would say. It's not that they have advanced technology; they just have vibranium infused weaponry, but they're very tribal looking, and yet they are quite. They present themselves as quite superior, based on what they're seeing. So that was that scene when Namor first comes out of the water. Oh, God, so good.
Well, I'd like to learn a bit, and I'm sure you have a lot of answers here, because I want to know some more about the supporting cast of Namor's people, because all I know, Ryan, comes from Marvel Ultimate Alliance on the Xbox 360, where you go to Atlantis in level 3, I believe. And in Atlantis, you meet. I actually don't think you meet Namor. I don't think he's there, but you meet Namorita, and then you meet Atuma and Tiger Shark, who are a couple of jerkwads. And in this movie, we get Atuma, but no Tiger Shark, and we get not Namorita, but Namora. So, tell me about these people. Tell us about these people. Who are they?
Oh, all right. So, starting with Atuma. Atuma is like he's like a hand of the king until he isn't. Until someone gives him a better offer, and then he decides to flip the script and betray Namor. So. And then he kind of, once he flips the script a few more times, like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Like that kind of thing. then eventually he gets outcasted. Then he's always trying to like overtake the throne and become like, he has very small ambition. Let's get into Namorita. Namorita, who is not in the film, she is the sister to Namor, and she's very beautiful. She's very beautiful, and so few characters kind of fall in love with her a few times. But
I know I did during the game. I think she's a clone, right?
Yeah, I think Johnny Storm falls in love with her a few times, but I mean,
he falls in love with his pencil sharpener if it's still long enough.
And then the other thing is he sorry. So Namorita, the other thing about her is that she is the more sympathetic to the surface dwellers than Namor is. So Namorita, right. She's more sympathetic. She's more open to things. So when Namor is out of town, everyone kind of goes to her because she'll actually listen. Where Namor, it takes a lot to convince him to do anything. And when Namor takes his position, when he takes a position on something, there's no changing his mind. Like when you really have to move mountains and prove that things are the way they are, because he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave. Well, what is Talokan in MCU or Atlantis? And the other side of the coin is he will defend. Like he will fight his own allies in order to stand his ground. So that's where Namorita is kind of the thing. Namora is a cousin of the royal family, and she's just kind of a warrior character, like kind of a parallel, if you want to look at it, is like Valkyrie. Same kind of idea. So she's kind of, always kind of like an extension of Namor. She's always, protecting the underwater people and like protecting her grounds. And again, if Namor doesn't want to do it, she definitely doesn't want to do it. And she's always kind of supporting that. She's a support character to Namor in that sense. So those are kind of the main players that we have to work with right now. So we haven't even seen Namorita yet, but we might down the road, depending on how things go.
What about Tiger Shark? What's his deal?
Tiger Shark, he's again both Tuma and Tiger Shark. They both are kind of like what I can only describe as Rhino and Sandman. Like they're just these goons that will they think that they'll run things better if Namor is not around. So there's not much to add to them other than they're just like strong henchmen characters. They have some good stories to follow, but there's nothing like over, there's no Doctor Doom kind of epic level storytelling that they offer.
Right. You don't write home about those guys. So if they are Rhino and Sandman, or like Bebop and Rocksteady, if you will, does Namor have a Shredder equivalent that he fights a lot?
Well, to be honest, he kind of dances with certain people. His nemesis, if you will, would technically be like a Tuma and Tiger Shark, if you will. But the other person that they deal a lot with is Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom, who's a pediatrician. That's where he studied medicine.
Exactly. So yeah, it's hard to say. It's again, like, and I can't even really think, because like the other thing with Marvel too, like when they do villains right, they do them right, but there's not that many of them. Like they're like, that's the thing, like they all, and that's the beauty of the Marvel world too, is that they all kind of are all close together, right? So Doctor Doom gives them a lot of problems.
Well, there's also not too many villains in Marvel United, the board game. So Simon and Spin Master Games, get on that. I'm still waiting for a third season where you just throw a bunch of villains at me. Because that game is delicious, and I need more. Please, I'm just hook it to my veins.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
one thing that I thought was real cool, Ryan, in this movie that just it made me happy was just the little tiny details that they played with in the subtitles. I don't know what the font was that they used, but it was a really cool, sort of ancient looking font, very subtle. And you had three different colors depending on what's being spoken. You got yellow for Wakandan, you got this cool aqua for the Talokan language, and then for every other language, you got white. I just thought that was really, really sweet. I loved how that looked.
Yeah, there's so many layers of details in this movie that you just want to appreciate. And the cool thing is too is I love how they do it with both the Wakandan closed captions and the Talukan's closed captions, which is they do it in their language first, and then they'll remix the letters into like the language we can read.
Yes.
So I just thought that was really cool. And what's cool is when you see the Talukans, they're all like symbols, like I can't even say it. Hieroglyphs.
Hieroglyphs.
Hieroglyphs. Thank you. But yes, they're like oh my god, they're that word, and then like they translate it. But yeah, and the other cool thing is too is like there's all this talk about mutants now in MCU. And we get introduced to technically our first mutant, which is Miss Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is we are introduced to the first mutant, which is Namor.
Now he's the first mutant in terms of publication order, because I think isn't Apocalypse the first mutant?
Yes, Apocalypse is technically the first mutant, but Namor is the first published mutant, and then come later the X-Men.
So we need a scene where he meets Miss Marvel, and she's like, "You know what's cool? Being a mutant." And he's like, "Yeah, that is pretty cool." And there's a knock at the door, and they open the door, and it's Kelsey Grammer as Beast. And he's like, "Hello, would you like me to read you from James Joyce?" And I just go nuts in my chair. That's what has to happen now.
What I was hoping for in this movie, speaking of just kind of hopes and dreams here, is what I was hoping for is after this whole movie is because I knew there was going to be like you see in the trailer, there's going to be an epic battle. I was hoping Namor would like lose and just get totally just like knocked for a loop, and he gets left, like he gets deserted. And he ends up, because he's washed ashore, he ends up making his way as kind of a nomad, and like kind of forgets himself because like maybe he got concussion or something, an untreated concussion or something that made him lose his memory. And I hope they did how they find him in the comics, which is he goes to a bar and he has a huge beard. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, on the news, it's like a missing a nation that we didn't even know existed has come to United Nations, and they're looking for their king. They know he's alive, but they don't know where he is. And then they show a picture of him, and or like a drawing of him, and Johnny Storm is in a bar, and he looks at this homeless guy, and he uses his flaming hand, and he burns away the beard, and it turns out to be Namor. And he's like, "Oh my god!" I was hoping that would be an end credit sequence. I was like, that would be so dope. Is you like introduce Johnny Storm like that, and that would have been so cool.
Johnny Storm not respecting anybody's boundaries, just like, "Here, let me burn your face."
Well, no, because like obviously he figured it out. He's not just gonna do it to anybody. But yeah, no, it was such a cool concept, and I was like, that would be the dopest end credit sequence. I like, just as like a fan, to see the Fantastic Four like finally up there, or at least one of them, would be so cool.
Yeah, they're taking their time. They're drip feeding that announcement to us. It'll get here when it gets here. But I didn't know anything, pretty much nothing about her until we saw this. But I am now a fan of Ironheart, Ryan. I think Ironheart
yes.
is pretty cool.
the introduction of Riri Williams. So she kind of finishes off the first act and leads us into the second act of the film. And I loved her humor on point. She has great comedic timing. And then on top of that, there's a lot of things I liked about this character. So first of all, this movie does an incredible job introducing us to new like Marvel characters, like big Marvel characters. And Ironheart was fun. She's a fun character right from the beginning. And they do a good job, kind of like this classic Marvel style storytelling of like, we know, okay, there's American scientists who made this scanner who could detect vibranium. And Wakanda's like, what? Like, who? Like, how? Now, of course, my comic book brain was like, there's only one American scientist who could ever get that good, and that's clearly Reed Richards. But of course, you have to remember, there are other super smart scientists. Reed Richards may be the smartest, but there are other super smart scientists. And so yeah, so they go to find out who it is. They find out it's Riri Williams, and she's like a tech wizard. But they do a good job introducing how she elevates above the rest, and this is where Marvel's hero discovery really, puts its formula to work. Is like, how do you set this character above the rest? How is this person defined being a Marvel amongst other people? And so they introduce her, and she's so great. And then it becomes a manhunt for her, which is a lot of fun. And they end up taking her, and they take her to the warehouse. And I love they throw the small little tidbits in there, which I'm sure we'll learn more about in the Ironheart story. But the FBI is essentially after her, and the Wakandans get to her first, and then they're trying to scramble to get her away. So she goes back to her warehouse, and I love the FBI calls out, is like, is that Star Tech? And she just, boom, repulsor blast, and then flies out of there. So fun, so cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's bound to happen at some point. Somebody's got to be smart enough to see Iron Man on the news and say, I understand how that works. Boom, 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 boom. Next thing you know, they've got a suit. So I don't know if we're going to see different suits in the upcoming show. I'm assuming that's probably going to happen. I'm assuming if she's anything like Tony, she builds a bunch of suits. But I really ended up liking the suit that she had here. It felt like it kind of had like shades of Japanese culture to it, like a mech suit, like a Gundam kind of suit looking thing. It reminded me a bit of the armor that they wear in Big Hero 6.
Yes,
that look to it, right? Yeah. So I really like how that looked. And now I'm just itching for more Ironheart. The spin-off is going to be fun. I hope she comes back in another movie too. I hope we get her in season 3 of Marvel United, because we don't have a figure for Ironheart yet. She's not a playable character. So get on that, Simon and Spin Master. I'm on board the Ironheart train, and I love how they turned her into it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it really gave me shades of Miles Dyson in Terminator 2, where it's like, here's this scientist who's really going to mess shit up for us. So a bunch of people are going there to try to kill him, and another bunch of people are going there to try to stop him. So Riri kind of fell in the middle of that, and it really gave me these Terminator 2 vibes at some points, and I liked how that played out.
It did. But again, I also love like the blueprints, like again, all the layers of this character. Like they give you it's like opening a box of Lego. You know what you're getting. Yeah. You know what you're getting when you get the character, and they literally give you all the pieces that make up the character, but they don't explain anything. They just literally give you all the pieces of the character. Super smart genius. Really good with technology, and she's working on a suit. And it's literally like, those are the things that tell you part of her story. Now, what I would like to see as time progresses with her is how she got inspired by Stark, if she did. I hope she did, personally, because that's how the comic books play out. In the comic books, she watches Iron Man in battle, and he takes a hit, and in pieces of his armor falls near her, and she takes that and then develops her own suit. I hope that kind of plays a thing, but we'll see. But yeah, but again, you're absolutely right, and I couldn't agree with you more. And it's just like, but it, like I said, it's like opening a Lego box. You see what you're getting on the picture, and when you open the box, all the pieces are laid out in front of you, and they're kind of already giving you the instructions of how to put the character together, and it's amazing.
Yeah, she's so much fun. The noise that she makes when she walks into the bathroom and Okoye is in there waiting for her. Oh, well, I guess this is one of her first movies too, because Dominique Thorne is relatively young. So
Yeah.
again, another actor just like Tenoch Huerta. Like you're starting off in this big giant movie. How cool is that? I'm so happy for these actors. Like that's
Yeah, not only are they starting in a movie, not only are they just starting in a big blockbuster film, they're starting in a Marvel film, which is, this is a hugely successful platform to be a part of. And the fact that they're still, and this is why I'm both happy with what they're doing, but I'm also upset with what they're doing in other things. Like you have Wonder Man coming, and they cast the guy who played Black Manta, and I'm all for like giving this guy a role. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited for him to do it, but at the same time, this is a new hero. Could you not find someone new to play them? Like Namor. They gave a character who's like Marvel royalty on and publishing, and they gave it to a brand new actor. They gave the role to a brand new actor. But I'm gonna withhold my full judgment until I see Wonder Man on screen, because I'm all for finding the right person to play the character, and that's always top priority. And that's why, I love the Robert Downey casting. I love the Chadwick Boseman casting for Black Panther. There are people who are doubtful of Chadwick being able to play T'Challa, and I'm all for that. And I'm all for like finding the right person to play the character. But at the same time, like I love when they find someone new, like someone net new in the movie industry, give them a role like this, because essentially now, like they have now had a role in a super successful platform. So now they can go out and just be in more projects. They can do more. I know Marvel is a very all-time consuming thing, but it's going to allow them to really have a good foot in the industry, and really be able to kind of start doing project, like get a lot of notice and have a lot of options for projects, which is huge.
yeah, it'll jumpstart a career rather than just keep it going.
Yeah, keep it going slightly upward, that kind of thing. It's essentially, to me, it's like, like Captain Britain, like this whole talk about Captain Britain, because I think they're going to do Henry Cavill as Captain Britain. I think the last time he confirmed he was doing it, even though he's Superman now. But it's like, okay, could we not find another person to play Captain Britain, because that would be cool, like especially too because these characters aren't well known, so it would be fun to see. But I think it's also because they're not well known, that's why they're casting, who they think is best, but at the same time, someone with a little more fan base behind them, because again, like, oh, guess what? We're having a Captain Britain movie, or like something with Captain Britain, and everyone's like, well, I don't know who Captain Britain is. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird dance, but yeah. But that being said, Riri Williams, and oh my God, the actor who plays that character, she did an amazing job through and through, and she's fun. And so the other thing I love, real quick, I want to talk about is we see her in her armor, and what I love is you get two different variants of her armor. You get the armor she starts with; it doesn't work out quite well. You can already see the kind of Iron Man like journey where like she learns that there's limitations to the armor she built, so she needs to rebuild it. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. That was really fun. Anyway, so then Shuri gets captured, and oh my God, the consequences of Shuri being captured. Oh my God. Oh man, Okoye, that scene's a tough pill to swallow, and I don't mean that it's a bad scene. I mean it's so good. You feel, and the actor who plays Ramonda. She does, man. She acts circles around these people, like the intensity she brings. Oh man,
That is my favorite scene of the movie, Ryan. Ramonda chewing out Okoye, even though I don't blame Okoye for what happened at all, but just
Yeah.
seeing Ramonda have that moment and break down, and we realize like, that's her last kid, and her last kid is missing, potentially dead in enemy territory. That was for me the coolest, heaviest, most intense part of this 2 hour, 41-minute movie.
Yeah.
I love that throne room scene so much.
And
And
not
I
only
love
that,
Ramonda so much.
and not only that, like the scenes leading up to it, like where Okoye has the battle with Atuma on the bridge, they did such a good job with the fight story of it, like the storytelling of it, that you almost think there's going to be like a lot of character deaths in this movie. Like they do such a good job showing that Okoye is losing this fight, and she said this mission would be a cakewalk. And the fear growing as she's losing the fight is so good. Oh my god, I love it so much. And then so Shuri gets taken, and then the throne room scene. And what I loved about the throne room scene is also the dialogue here, because she's like, "You lost my daughter. Like I've lost my son, and now you've lost my daughter." And she's like, "And where were you when Killmonger took the throne?" And she's like, "I was loyal to the throne." That was her response. She lived up to her duty. And they're like, "Boom! No, that doesn't count.
It's
You should have been
sad.
You should have been loyal to us." That was the comeback. It was so good.
I could do a whole podcast just about that scene. That scene really got to me. And this bridge fight gave me the thing that I always say I want, Ryan, because it kickstarted this thing where you have a bunch of heroes and you have a bunch of villains who are not nameless goons, but actual villain characters with names and powers. And they start forming rivalries, because when we get to that climax and Okoye locks eyes with Atuma again, you know it's on. Yeah. And that makes me so happy and excited. And they pair it up so that Ironheart is fighting Namora. Like they create the rivalries that I love to see. And Atuma got his ass handed to him in the end by Okoye, but I think the dude's still alive. She just knocked him into the water really, really hard. So rivalry, I want to say that happen more. Please
absolutely.
More.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, you're right. Like the bridge scene sets up so many things so quickly. It's amazing. And then we also get Valentina coming back. It's good to see Julia Louis-Dreyfus doing her thing. I think she's great in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as like a anti-Nick Fury, I think is the best way to describe it. But she's so much fun. But yes, the bridge scene is amazing. Oh my god. And the throne room scene following that is also amazing. And the other thing I have to say about the throne room scenes overall and a character who is in them is M'Baku. M'Baku is so fun in this movie, but it's fun in a smart way because he has grown so much. Because like if you look at the first movie and how T'Challa learns a lot from Killmonger, M'Baku learns a lot from T'Challa, and the relationship they've built, even though they have opposing views, they find a middle ground that they work in, and he becomes such a genuine character. And I think we talked about this after the movie, but someone was saying like he's a bad like in the comics he's a bad character, like he's a bad guy. And I'm like, you know what though? Like M'Baku kind of he's a one-dimensional character with a lot of extremes in the comic books. Like he obviously thinks vibranium is a disease to Wakanda, and he doesn't want any technology. He wants to just stay like the nation that they are and like be remote. And he'll go to extremes to make that happen. And what I love about this version of M'Baku, the MCU version, is they gave him much more growth as a character. Like he is now more of an anti-hero than just a villain. Like he's moving up the ladder. Like he could be a hero at one point. Like he could go full hero status. And in this one, I would say he definitely plays to the side of the hero. But because if you look at the scale, he started bad and now he's in the middle, and now he's trying to be good, so he's moving it along. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant what they did with this character. Absolutely. I think they could have kept him kind of a one note, like, oh, I'm a mountain, this mountain part of Wakanda, and Wakanda needs to be back the way it is. He's like, no, like he actually considers all the options, and he plays such a mentor figure. And I love, like, he comes and you see it, you kind of see his example when he first comes in, and the river tribe talks about how Namor surpassed their security and got in, and he's like, they should be dead. Now, why are they even here? Like, they should be exiled, and just like the other guy, like they should be gone. And they're like, whoa, 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 can't just do that, right? But like I love that he comes in with the carrot, and he's just like, why are they here? Why are they here?
That carrot looks delicious, by the way. M'Baku steps up, man. He was my favorite character in the first movie, and he keeps that through line going. And I love what they did with him, like you're saying, in terms of how he has changed while staying the same. And I don't even know if he's aware of it, the character, which is great. But he spends most of the first movie wanting to be T'Challa, wanting to be in T'Challa's shoes, which is king of Wakanda, the most powerful Wakandan, right? He wants to be T'Challa. And in this movie, he steps into T'Challa's shoes in a way that he didn't expect by becoming the big brother figure to Shuri.
Yeah.
And it turns into this beautiful moment of not so much enemy, because they stopped being enemies in the last movie, but frenemies slowly becoming family. And that's such a beautiful story arc. Like, I love when they do that, when Prince Zuko does it, when Apollo Creed does it. Like, it really turns into this cool story arc that you don't see coming, and then you just can't look away. You're like, yes, give me more of this. And he's also another character, Ryan, who needs to be brought into Marvel United Season 3, and he needs to be a purple anti-hero so that you can face M'Baku as a villain or place him as a hero. What are you waiting for, Simon and Spin Master Games? Come on.
But okay, so going back to the Okoye being stripped of her rank, and it's a whole thing. Beautiful scene. And so then she enlists Nakia to go and get it. And not only that, Nakia is an interesting character, because the first one, you don't really like, she's a spy, she's very cloak and dagger, but she's all about like helping culture, like helping different groups. So in this one, she's like full spy mode, and it's so cool how they kind of give her this spotlight of like how she becomes a spy. She infiltrates, she learns about the culture and then how to get into it. I love it. I love how she goes to the borders of Talokan, and she's asking around, and people are treating her like a tourist and like, no, get out of here. And then she's like, no, like I know who he is. And then it's a whole thing. And so while this is happening, Shuri is captured. And this scene to me is like, oh my God. It was like, this is how you do a sci-fi movie. Like, this is exactly how you do it. So Shuri is a prisoner of Talokan, and Namor takes her on a journey through his city and kingdom to explain why he's doing what he's doing. All the feels like just gush out of me, because like it's a beautiful scene. Just like, not only the environment is gorgeous, just being underwater and seeing what a Mesoamerican city would look like underwater is absolutely brilliant. But she finds out through his story, and that is like, there's a huge similarity between them, and which is interesting because she's grieving, right? She feels like no one understands her. And you then see Namor and him telling his story that their cultures are so similar. It's just the circumstances in which they're given, right? Like, and it just shows how cultures are defined by how people take their resources, or how people push them around, like just how people deal with other people. And And it's beautifully done. It's a beautiful narrative. And I love that they go there. They go there in a beautiful way without pushing it too hard on the audience. At the same time, like trying to get the audience to understand these characters, which you love. And I also got to give props to Ryan Coogler for making new salutes for cultures that just look boss. Like Wakanda has the crossed arms thing, and Talokan has this like sea demon thing. I can't even do it right, but like when they do it, it's just so magical. It looks so cool. When I do it, I'm like, yeah, but like it's so gorgeous. And yeah, so he explains it, and then she learns that they have vibranium, and again, just the whole beautiful thing. I'm gonna just rush over it a little bit here because I'm kind of in rant gushing mode. But so as this is happening, there's a rescue mission being there, and Ramonda blows the horn, gets Namor to leave, and Shuri goes back to her cage, and then Nakia gets them out, and she shoots. She shoots one of the. Is it Namora? I think it's Namora. She shoots.
It's not Namora. No, she shoots like just another
servant.
person. Yeah.
So she kills that person, and Shuri's like, no, we need to save this person, or else this is a declaration of war. Yeah. And so everything is justified, and nothing is skipped over, like everything. So she shoots him, boom, or shoots the servant. Servant's down. Shuri's trying to save him, doesn't work. They get Riri Williams and Shuri out. And take them home. And Ramonda is interesting because she's like, I just want my daughter back. Like, and he's like, you like the more with intimidation, man. Oh my God. Just stares down Ramonda and he's like, you are either our ally or you are our enemy. You make a choice. And like,
that sounds like some Anakin Skywalker talk to me there.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, only a Sith deals in absolute, but like, oh my God, the intimidation stare down they have is epic.
And you know what? You brought up the seashell, and I forgot about that, but what a great way to make Namor just come across as this weird, creepy dude. Like, first of all, he comes up out of that lake in front of Ramonda and Shuri in the dead of night. And it's just like, hey, what's up? I'm a fish king. And he gives them this ultimatum. And then he just hands them the seashell and says, when you have what I want, just blow into this. Trust me, I'll hear you. Like, that's so creepy.
I know. It's just, he does intimidation so well. And so he comes back to realize that they killed his servant. And I love the scene when he goes to, you see it in the trailer where he descends to the throne and he does a speech about how he's been blind to trust. And that is so good. Oh my God. He's like, I've been blinded by trust, and now they've taken advantage of me. We are going to war. And it's so cool. It gets me so pumped. And they're all like, Talokan! Talokan! Like they're just screaming. And thus begins the Battle of Wakanda. And it's so good. Oh my God. Water starts flooding in and just war breaks out and everyone's freaking out. It's so good. And like, oh man, that whole war scene is fun. Like the way they do Namor in the movie, even though it's CG, the way he moves around so fluidly is just so gorgeous to watch. Like he comes in and out of the water with such ease, and the strength. I am always very critical of how you display superhuman strength in a movie, because it's either too cheesy to believe, or when it's done right, it looks scary as hell. And Namor's strength and the Talokan strength is really something to behold in this movie. Like everything they do looks so strong, and it's so much fun to watch.
Well, they were really smart to set it up the way they did, because you only ever, like the first time you see Namor, he's Super Marioing a helicopter in mid-flight. So that's their way of, I guess, telling the audience who doesn't know this character, this guy is like Thor levels of strong. So when we see him later cutting through the water like a fish and jumping up and down, like we know Wakandans can't do that. They're just regular people who have cool technology. So that was the movie's way of telling us with the helicopter, this guy can do stuff that, Shuri and T'Challa aren't able to do. Even,
Right.
Even with their suits, like they have limitations. So that was a nice little shorthand way of introducing what you can do, and then seeing him jump around in the water. They really embraced the aquatic parts of Namor without making it look dumb and cheesy. My personal favorite cheesy superhero thing that they would use to show how strong somebody is like somebody's lifting like a little like barbell with two black balloons on it that just have like 1 ton written on. That's my favorite.
It's so true. But yeah, when Namor does anything in this movie that involves strength, it looks like it involves strength, but it shows how superhuman it is. And also, I forgot, like leading up to the events of the war, he explains his story about how he's born. And I can't believe I didn't even talk about this. So they talk about how the vibranium does split off, and the way their gods are formed, both the gods' gifts are received, I should say, are exactly the same. And I really love that because, it plays to the mono myth, which is like, if you look at all religions, they all have a parallel. They all have a similarity to them that makes them all related, which is so interesting to me. I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell. His works are influenced in all sorts of movies, especially like movies like Star Wars and stuff. So I was a big fan of that. And I love that, the story of the Talukans and how, they had a plant that was modified by the vibranium, and it gets them, they use it. They gave it to everyone so they could, adapt and get gills and then be able to go underwater. So they can be away from the surface dwellers. And what's interesting about Namor's story is they explain why he's immune, which is so cool. And that was really neat. But yeah, and then, so I just wanted to say, I want to point that out. Any thoughts on that?
No, I love I didn't think about the monomyth thing until you brought it up, and that's a great point. It really cements that idea, and it just makes you wonder, like you said earlier, like who else has little tiny pieces of vibranium that have changed them in some way?
Yeah, because they talk about Bast, and they talk with Bast, which is the Wakandan god, the cat. And I can't remember the Talokan god, but the sea serpent god, essentially. And
is that Kukulkan, or is that
Kukulkan? Yeah, that Namor is the rebirth of Kukulkan, right? Like and so it's really cool. So the battle is so much fun. I love M'Baku when he just like tries to go for the big, like he's like, I'm gonna get him right out of the gate, and it's gonna be done. And then Namor just flexes and literally, both metaphorically and literally, flexes and just boom, and punches M'Baku. He goes flying, and you get to see his strength. And again, this movie does not hold back. Leading up to the throne room where Namor breaks the window, throws the water grenade, and kills Ramonda with one swift move, and then leaves it as a warning. He's like, you now have till the next sun, or till the next sun of something, or solstice, and we will come back, and you better be ready.
Yes.
Like, you attacked us. Now this is our retaliation. So next time it's war. Like, it's so good. And I honestly thought Ramonda was going to survive. And this movie plays with you. Like, this movie does a good job of but the Ramonda goes in like the best way in the sense that she saves Riri, gets her out, and it's amazing.
Yeah, what a fitting end to such a beast of a character. Ramonda is awesome. And I want this now to be the inciting incident that makes Namor more interesting in the future. What I mean is, obviously, we're going to see Namor again, whether he gets a spin-off or what. He's coming back. We all know that. So what I want to see, and we didn't see really any of it, I think, in this movie. Yes, they're all friends now, sort of, right? But I want to see when Namor's front and center again. I want to see his whole story arc struggling with the fact that, like, I kind of murdered that old lady, right? Like, am I a monster? Like, I want that to be his struggle, because that's a big deal. And you can't, truce notwithstanding, fine, they made a truce, but we the audience need that before we can cheer him on as a hero. We need him, and before he can see himself as a hero, we need him to come to grips with that. I killed this lady who was trying to mind her own business, and that's going to stick with me, and I have to wrestle with that for the rest of my life. That is gift wrap for them now, so I hope they address it. I hope we don't just, when we see Namor again, I hope he's not just like, oh, I'm a noble guy and everything is fine.
Yeah.
Because then it would undercut what happened here.
I think what's going to be interesting from this is he thinks he made a mistake by trusting people, and then later on he's going to realize he did make he did make mistakes. And he's not like a great king. Like he has to earn what it is to be a true king, which I think is the theme of, like, to be a true leader, I should say, which is, I think, is the theme so far of Wakanda in general. Like, just the like T'Challa, like they have everything, and they, but T'Challa learns, like, vengeance consumes us all, right? Like that's what he learned in Civil War. He had a great arc in that. And he realizes, like, you can't run on vengeance. And then you have his story with Killmonger, and he realizes, like, you can't. I mean, you can, if you have all these resources and you're self-sustainable, that's great. But if you're not helping the world, then you're not helping. Eventually, it's not going to work. Like, you're not going to have sustainability. And so I think that's the journey here. And so Shuri, what's beautiful is Shuri goes through the same journey, and Shuri's transformation. So in the beginning of the movie, she's trying to work on a synthetic herb that will play up to the heart-shaped herb, but she couldn't find the solution, the formula to figure it out to get the same results. But she does find out through Namor that Namor gives her the bracelet, and then she's able to do it. So yeah, in the final battle, like, yeah, I think there, the final battle, which is amazing. Like, Wakanda goes on their own terms and fights Namor and gets into the whole thing. You see Shuri go through that learning journey of, like, you can't fight on vengeance. You have to learn to find compromise. You have to be able to share. And we will protect Talokan and everything. And the whole battle is, I think, at first I wasn't sure how I was feeling about this battle, but in the end it plays so great, and I think it really plays to this journey. It's amazing.
The whole praise that Killmonger gets for being one of the best Marvel villains is because of the fact that T'Challa looks at Killmonger and understands, I was one bad day away from being this guy, right? One little thing could have gone wrong, the tiniest thing, and I would have been in this guy's shoes. That's why Killmonger worked. Now you have the same thing happening here. Namor works as a great villain because Shuri spends the whole movie feeling these angry emotions and just feeling like a failure and becoming vengeful and becoming wrathful. So we get to that point where she looks him in the eye and she realizes, I am this guy. I have become this guy. And if I take one more step, I'm going to pass the point of no return. And that, to me, I think this is, in terms of Phase 4 movies, this is the best hero's journey Phase 4 has given us by a wide margin.
You could not have said it better, and I love that you phrased it as hero's journey, because that's exactly what it is. It's a hero's journey done to the T, to the best execution you can get, and It's gorgeous. Like that last battle, like, oh my god, it is like it is your standard battle. Like, hey, we have a leg up on the competition. We have a new suit for the oh my god, the Dora Milaje with the Midnight Angel thing. We have better plan, but in the end, it comes down to ideals. And she's about to kill Namor. And the best part is too, like when she tries the heart-shaped herb, you know, I thought they were going to do some sort of magical nod to Chadwick, giving her like the nod and like, hey, you're the new Black Panther now. You need to, and that like that inspires her to be like the new T'Challa. But I love that the twist is she sees Killmonger, and he's like, well, you called me, cuz like, you know, and like, oh. And it's beautiful, yeah, because like once she gets to the kill scene, she, you know, Ramonda gives her the advice she needs, which is like, show them who you are. Like you're not this person. You're acting on vengeance. Like you're acting on like this person's taken away that last single thing, and you know you're not that person. And it's you know you're gonna help them, like show them who you are. And you know some people can see that last little bit there of the war being like, hey, like, you know, that last little bit of the war there, like, you know, we're all friends now, yay! But it's more than that. It's literally like, you know, in order for us to be better, we need to be better, and it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Yes, they need to grow. They need each other to grow, and damn, has Shuri ever grown? I think seeing Killmonger was just a great way to cement that she had a long way to go. She was in a dark place. It was, again, I got to bring up Empire Strikes Back again, but it's this dark middle chapter where she goes into the cave and she sees the dark reflection of herself. That's what Killmonger was there for, man, burning that throne room away. So I was expecting Ramonda to be the one she sees, and it just turns out to be this whole sucker punch that we get with Michael B. Jordan, who was very sneaky these past few months because he kept saying in interviews, yeah, man, I'd really totally be down to join the MCU again if they asked me to bring Killmonger back. Oh, ain't I a stinker? You don't know, but I already filmed my so that was a really cool surprise to see him there. But we ended with this wonderful battle, and now Shuri is a better person, and Namor is on his way to becoming a better person, but he is still plotting with Namora and telling her, you know, he's still looking at it from a political standpoint that Wakanda's kind of we're in their debt sort of thing. And now we owe them, they owe us a favor, and now I'm ready to cash in on that favor. So I think my question for you, Ryan, about Namor in the future, the two-part question is, do you have any sort of inkling of what this favor is going to look like? And can he grow back his foot feathers?
Short answer to the foot feathers, yes, of course they will grow back. He is a sea serpent, which means he's a reptile. So he's no, that's just me making up logic. But yes, he will recover. But in terms of the debt they owe to Wakanda, it's a similar journey to M'Baku, man. They gotta work their way up. They gotta play along and do the best they can to support Wakanda and however they see fit. Personally, I think there's going to be a similar theme of a greater force is going to come and take what they want, and that will rally Namor to come to their aid and repay the debts. I mean, it's a hard debt to repay, being that he killed, Shuri's mother, but he will. I think that will be a long. I think he'll make big waves, all pun intended. But I think that he will. I don't think we'll see resolution. Let's say I don't think we'll see resolution like the next two projects with Namor. We'll see it in a long burn.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. We got Tenoch Huerta for plenty of time, so just let them pace themselves. So as we draw to the end of the movie, surprise, shock, gasp, Nakia and T'Challa got themselves some they had a wet, hot Wakandan summer, which was the alternate title for this movie. And now they got a little boy.
That's right.
There's a
So
son.
all I can say comic book wise to this is that he does exist in the comics, but he doesn't exist in the 616 universe. He exists in the 838 universe. But there's a great storyline. You can actually see him in another animated film, Azuri. Is it Azuri? Azuri?
His name was
Azuri T'Challa the Second or something like that.
I think his name was Toussaint. It's something French because they're engaged.
Yeah. No. But when he says his Wakanda name, I think it's like Azuri T'Challa the Second or something like that.
Okay.
And so yes, he does exist in the Marvel Comics world. There's an animated movie called The Next Avengers, and it's all like the kids. But his mother was not Nakia. His mother was Storm, and he actually shoots a lightning.
Yeah, that's right. In the comic, Black Panther and Storm have some vibranium.
They have a very complicated relationship.
Yes. In fact, the two of them take leadership of the Fantastic Four at one point, if I remember.
They do.
So, yeah, those two are all over the place. We got this kid, and I can't help but think, Ryan, I don't necessarily think I want this. I don't know if I don't want this, but I wouldn't say I want this. But I feel like because the kid is named T'Challa, I feel like something's going to happen where they're going to use Kang to like speed up time in him, and then he's like, I'm an adult now. Let's go be Black Panther.
I don't know. It could very well happen. I'm sure Marvel will find a way to do it, but at the same time, I think it doesn't serve that purpose. I think what purpose this serves is that things move on. Is what it is simply saying, is that, you know, because she thought she lost all of her family. Like, the character literally leaves on like being the last one of her family.
Yeah.
And then this is it's in him is the symbol of hope. Is literally that things will be better and things can move on. So I don't know if he will serve later on as a new Black Panther. He may be a variant Black Panther in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know if he's just going to take over Shuri just like that and, like, you know, that be the end of it. I just think that it serves that purpose of, like, you know, because like literally moments before, she throws in her funeral outfit to just be a symbol of like the grieving is over. And then literally the second that happens, we get introduced to the sun, and it's literally just like a whole thing. So yeah, it's I don't think I wouldn't even start thinking that yet. I just don't. It's way too soon, and it's literally just it's I think it's just meant to be a symbol. It's just to stand as a symbol. But overall, I was very moved by it.
Yeah, and I prefer it that way, as a symbol. I prefer it as something, like you said, to just show Shuri you're not alone. You did not lose everybody, and a piece of your brother lives on.
Yeah.
That's a wild little emotional period to put on the end of this movie. And I think I'm glad there was no other post-credit scene. Ryan Coogler said it, he described it, and I totally agree with him, where to fit the emotional ride that this movie wanted to take you on, it would do it a disservice if you have this moment and then, you know, after the credits you have like, hey, it's me, I'm Tiger Shark, right? Like, you don't want to do that. So I'm glad that they found a fitting ending for this.
They found a fitting end, and it just wraps up everything. So
yes. So unfortunately, we lost a couple people that we got to put in the Marvel Memorial Cemetery, right? We got to put T'Challa and Queen Ramonda. And that is a sad, sad day. So what should their graves look like?
I don't know, man. I just literally, I think it sums it up best. Wakanda forever, man. These characters and the legacies they've created, I would just leave it as Wakanda forever, and it leads to why the movie's named so aptly.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just a big statue of them. Maybe like for Ramonda, like a bust of her crown, like her headpiece. Yeah, and you just said Wakanda forever. That I think that sums it up beautifully. You can't do better than that. I think it's time that you and I arranged a heart-to-heart. Kings don't need advice from little hornbills for a start. This is a surprise Lion King podcast, but also it's time for us to rate the movie. So if you're just joining us for the first time, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we rate the Marvel movies on a scale of 0 Infinity Stones to 6 Infinity Stones. And if we really, really like it even more than that, we give it an Infinity Gauntlet. And last time, or not last time, but 2 times ago, on the Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness episode, Ryan, you went all out and you gave it 2 gauntlets. So that's also a new ranking that you need or something. So Ryan, where do you fall on Black Panther Wakanda Forever? What are you giving it?
I give it 2 gauntlets.
Give it 2 gauntlets! Oh my god!
I would. Only because they had a tall order bringing Namor to... they brought a tall order bringing Namor to life. So and honestly, I also give them a second gauntlet because there's no... This was a hard movie to do.
Oh yeah.
You can't say it other than that. Like, as someone who, you know, would love to have been part of this film, when presented saying we're moving forward with this film, I would have the hardest time being like, how can I move forward with this? And that's the point of the whole movie, is how can you move forward? And it's just a huge, and it just screams like huge passion project, and it was so well received. It deserves everything it gets.
Wonderfully said. I'm going to give it an Infinity Gauntlet as well. I feel like I don't want to say it's not good enough for 2 gauntlets. I feel just in my own headspace, if I'm going to give something 2 gauntlets, I want to save that for something special, and I don't know what that is yet. But I'm not saying it's like an 8 out of 10. I'm saying it's a 10 out of 10. Like it is an Infinity Gauntlet. It just for me there is it's a beautiful, touching, very difficult story to tell, and they told it. And I'm so impressed that a 2-hour and 41-minute movie wastes 0 screen time. There's not a line of dialogue that doesn't propel things. There's not a scene that isn't important. There's no filler here. None at all. And for a movie this long, that is damn near miraculous. And then to top it all off, they almost in a way reversed the Marvel experience, which is when you go to watch Avengers movies or any of the other big Marvel event movies like Civil War, it tends to shine a spotlight on the moments that make the audience cheer and applaud. And with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the most standout moments for me, the most beautiful parts of this movie, were the moments that made the audience fall dead silent. And I didn't think Marvel could take us there. And not only did it take us there, but it did multiple times in the same movie. And that is just, I can't say good enough things about how impressive that is. Like Ryan Coogler, dude, give this guy Best Picture. Don't give it to Clint Eastwood movie number 34658, where he's in a wheelchair and he's like, "No, Clint Eastwood, right? We don't need that anymore. Just look at what Ryan Coogler has done with this story, with this impossible task he had spread out before him. So I'm just in awe of what they were able to accomplish. I got nothing but mad respect for Wakanda Forever, and I can't wait for Black Panther 3 now. The Rise of Annihilus. Leslie Bibb confirmed.
I don't know what the third one's going to look like, but I would love to see it being Doom, but at the same time, we'll have to wait and see. Because now, if they now then know what a true leader is, I know Doom is a perfect person to challenge that. So
Yeah, Doom really fits the mold here. And I'm curious, we heard all these rumors about him showing up. I'm glad he didn't, because again, it would have undercut a lot of things that are happening here. But where do you think he would have shown up, Ryan?
if in this movie or
movie.
just, I think he would have shown up in the last battle, but just that, just kind of like a teaser of like what's coming, like what Namor did to Wakanda the first time. In the second battle is what Doom would have did to them the second.
Yeah, I'm glad they left him out. I'm also glad, like I said, that they throw him into some post-credit scene. Like, I love that they introduced new characters, but they were still part of the plot. Again, they didn't waste any time. Nothing was here to just be like, set up a sequel. We get Ironheart and Namor and Peloton and all this stuff, but it's part of this story. Even the stuff with Valentina, obviously it's setting up Thunderbolts and whatever, but it's part of this story. It's not an extraneous cameo like Star Fox. And so I think that that's a really wise writing choice, and I hope we see more of that. And I'm so pleased with this film, and I'm glad we got to see it together.
We did it!
And now 3 more months, and we're going to jump into the quantum realm. But before that, we've got Guardians Holiday Special coming up. We've got our Holiday Special coming up, our Thanksgiving Special, where we're going to do our top 5 Phase 4 moments.
Mm-hmm.
And audience, you're getting 10 things, because I will have a top 5. I'll have a top 5. And then you're also getting our New Year's special where we rank the MCU.
I don't know how much is going to change my list, but there may be some drastic changes. But
I know you've put Dark.
Yeah.
But I think that makes sense given what happened at the end of Shang-Chi. So I'll give it to you. Ryan, where can the people find you when you're not in Comic Con all the time?
As always, you can find me on twitch.tv/Xbox Canada, where I stream on Xbox Canada. And right now, you'll find me mostly on Thursdays now from 12:30 to 2:30. And then also, I do recommend you check out my work YouTube channel, because I'm trying to build it up and do cool things with it, which is youtube.com/Expert Zone. One word, Expert Zone.
All right, I'm going to go subscribe to that right now, because I didn't know that was a thing. All right, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Andrew Fantasia, at least until Elon Musk bombs Twitter into the ground. And you can also find me on YouTube, Andrew Fantasia's YouTube channel, where I just posted a Black Panther video essay about the importance of letting your movie be as long or as short as it needs to be. And you can find that right there on my channel, Andrew Fantasia. And I'll be here talking about Star Wars, because Andor came out today, episode 11 of 12. And I haven't watched it yet, but I'm excited. And all of that is now behind us, just like Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Phase 4. We're at the end of Phase 4, right? We made it. We survived.
We did it.
Only 23 more phases to go. And I'm here for it all. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. This has been Infinity Rewatch. Until next time, please have a marvelous day.